All right. The birthplace of the Bohemian Revolution. From Code 591 Studios, we are the Bohemian Reformation. This is the Steve Brown Arts Center podcast in a blizzard in downtown Jesup.
First snow of the year.
Yeah, that's right. You snowmobilers, be careful out there. With producer Blake Tempus and co-host Dale Rueber, I'm Jim Gillespie, and this is the Jesup News for February 17th, 2025. Let's go right away. We've got a guest, a second-time guest with us, Austin Hamblin. Austin Hamblin is a graphic artist.
Yeah, okay. Comic book writer. Yeah, whatever. You know, there's many monikers. I've been called worse. So I'm good with that one.
Well, it is. You are having a lot of success. That's why we wanted to have you back.
We couldn't believe it, and we had to talk.
Dale's job in his contract is to attack all guests. So
make them pay.
That's right.
He came back twice. That just shows you the kind of intellect that we're working with.
Glutton for punishment.
Some days, So,
but no, we wanted to celebrate your success, Austin. So tell us some things that are going on in your career right now.
Yeah, so 2024 was a really big year for me, and I got to do a lot of cool stuff and a lot of stuff that was like a creative bucket list stuff for me. So probably the biggest thing that happened last year was I had a comic book miniseries come out through a publisher, so it was in comic book stores all across the US. So it was actually super cool to get like pictures of people from like, oh hey, I picked this up in Boston today, and like, people that I went to school with that are scattered, or it got it delivered into the mail, and just that all across the United States was just
that's great.
It is cool, and it's kind of cool because I see the sales numbers and I'm like, well, of all the people that I know that bought it, there's tons more. So there's all these people that I have never had any interaction with, that I've never met, I've never sent a text message to, that have now read something that I wrote, and that's such an odd feeling, that someone out there, whether they liked it or didn't like it, but I'm sitting in their collection of comics of someone that I've never met, and it's just weird. A little weird feeling.
It's got to be flattering.
It is cool. Yeah, absolutely. The comic was called Big Guns, Stupid Rednecks, so I kind of had a grabbing title for it, but it sold very well, and one of the coolest things we got to do was so Iowa City every year, in October they have a book festival, and so they have the actual festival is on, I believe, Saturday and Sunday, where they have all kinds of authors and there's publishers that come down and they have booths, but they have events during the week. And so I did, myself and the person who did the word balloons, my friend John Ira Thomas, he's from Coralville, who is also a writer as well. We did a signing at Daydreams Comics in Iowa City, and it was part of the Iowa City Book Festival. It was an official Iowa City Book Festival event, so it was on their website and everything, and we had a really good turnout of people. Me and him both dressed up like rednecks for the signing. I wore overalls and old Budweiser hat. Sad thing is I didn't have to buy anything. I just went over to my dad's closet and picked them out. I had to buy something for John to wear. He was not, prepared as I was. It was really cool.
I've got a question. What is it like to walk into a comic book and see, or a comic book store and see your book or your comic book in there?
It is a very weird feeling. Because I used to be what they call a Wednesday warrior. And what a Wednesday warrior is Wednesday is new comic book day. That's when all the new comics come out. And so when I was, probably from when I was 16 to 20 something, every Wednesday I was at the comic book store picking up my books because I was jonesing for it to be Wednesday.
Where's the comic book store around here, Austin?
The closest two from here there's two in Cedar Falls. There's one on College Hill, and then there's one off University that's kind of hid back away from the path. And then also there's Cedar Rapids has one, and then in downtown Iowa City has one. Those are kind of the closest around here. Besides, obviously, the Ames and Des Moines have one. But yeah, like I have always been going, and like to see my book up there is cool. But the real cool thing is, so most comic shops do this where they have the new this week wall. So it's just everything new that came out. And so then I go and I look at all the other books that are on the new this week wall with mine, and I see people that I was reading like when I was a kid, like my formative years of reading comics, like of the people that I started reading then and followed their entire careers from when I was 10 until 30. So 20 years I've been reading everything that they put out. To have stuff on the shelves with some of those people, just like the coolest feeling ever, because it's very full circle thing. Full circle is like a big thing that I pay attention to, especially in comics. It's really cool to get to do stuff like that.
That sounds great.
Very rewarding.
Of those artists that you followed when you were younger, how many of those have you met or talked to?
Oh man, the cool thing about comics is that everybody's pretty attainable. If you were talking about like movies, it's hard. Meeting a director is almost impossible. But comics, you go to conventions and they're there. As long as you're willing to wait. Obviously for the bigger name guys, you're gonna have to wait in line. But if you're willing to wait in line, you get to meet them. Even the people that are absolute legends. And it's cool because like making this specific kind of art is a very solitary thing because you kind of got to do it by yourself. So usually at these conventions, when I've got to meet these different creators, they are very excited to be there, to be out of the house, to meet fans. So they want to interact with you. It's not bothersome for you to talk to them or ask them questions. So I've pretty much, I on my Mount Rushmore of creators, I've only got to meet one. I have got to meet almost everyone that I like. I'd say 90% of the people that I like that are alive, I've been able to have some sort of interaction with.
Mm-hmm. This is Steve Brown Art Center Podcast Network. Tonight we're sponsored by Mickey D's Pizza and Lobster. The Pharaohs are a kind sponsor of this podcast. Include them at your wedding, graduation, or festival plans. Don't wait, the schedule's filling up for 2025. Give you a chance to catch your breath there, Austin. So who's on your Mount Rushmore of authors?
So for comics specifically, there's Jeff Lemire, who he is a Canadian cartoonist who honestly kind of has the same upbringing that I did. He grew up in a super rural farming community in Canada. So reading a lot of his work really resonates with me because the type of people that he puts into his stories are like the people that I interact with every day. And I really can see, and I've got to have a little interaction with him. He did something very nice for me that I don't want to share publicly because I feel like it kind of takes away from it, but he did something very, very nice for me. Then there's Mark Miller, who is a Scottish author who has been around a long time. A lot of his stuff has been made into movies, and he was kind of the first person that I read his work and I had my mind blown. I had been reading comics before, but once I started reading his stuff, it was like all the hooks were sunk in, and I was sold.
That's a question I've had. So you talk about a guy from Scotland. What is this kind of genre like in other countries? I mean, is it as big in other countries as it is in the United States?
It's crazy. It's so much different than it used to be because it's obviously way more accessible now than it was, 80s and 90s. Just because of the internet and having webcomics and stuff. So Japan, comics are huge in Japan. It's not the same type of stuff. When people think of comics in the United States, they generally think of superheroes, right? That's kind of where your mind goes first. There's other comics, war comics, whatever, but people just usually go to superhero. In Japan, comics is more just, it's looked at like a book. Books can be about anything. In Japan, they do comics about baseball, about sumo wrestling, and then you also have your fantasy stories, your action stories, your romance. It's more, I would say, more diverse, and it's kind of more, in Japan, it's more popular. I remember this statistic, and I can't remember from what year it was, but it was 40% of all print literature in Japan was comic books.
What's that genre called in Japan?
Manga.
There you go.
Yep, manga. And then just for those who might be confused about this, so if you've ever heard the term anime, essentially what an anime is it's just after manga series go on for a long enough time, and if they're popular enough, they'll make animated cartoons out of them that'll air on TV, and that's what anime is.
Okay.
So it's and it's cool too because like there is Italy Italy and France has this super healthy comic market, and there's tons of comics that get made and are never translated outside of Italian and French, which is crazy to me. And like, there's been some famous artists, like probably the most famous French comic book artist is went by the moniker Mobius, and his stuff eventually did get translated because he was so popular, but a lot of his work just remained just in French to this day. But yeah, no, it's really becoming a worldwide thing, especially with like in Korea they have this thing called manhwa, or like webtoons, and it's a different format of comics. It's like a scrolling format, so it's like you on a mobile, and you scroll to the next panel, and that is huge in Korea and all over Asia. And so yeah, it's more popular and socially acceptable than it's ever been, which makes me happy, because I think that it would have been this way sooner. I just think that it lacked accessibility. I think more people would have probably read them and enjoyed them. It just, they weren't, couldn't find them. You can't find something, you can't like it.
I was on the local library board for 12 years here, and I remember the discussion we had at one of our meetings about whether or not to have a section of graphic novels or not.
Yeah.
And it was quite a long discussion. Is that something that belongs in the library or not? And we voted to start acquiring them. And as far as I remember, they were quite popular. That, I got used to them being there. But it was a discussion we had whether or not to allow them into the library or not. Whether they were literature.
The thing that might have changed it was the Lexile rating, or the reading level you should be at, because you went a long time, and they weren't in schools, and all of a sudden, I'll never forget this, Barb Glazner, the librarian when I taught at Jesup, all of a sudden she had multiple cartoon novels in the library. It's like, there's no way that our English department is going to accept this. And all of a sudden it was like, it's...
anything to get them to read. So.
Yeah.
The business side, like, it used to be like, there were Marvel comics, and it used to be when I was a kid, Dell Comics would do loan rates. Are you affiliated with any one company, or do you just things out to a lot of companies to see who picks it up, or how does that work these days?
Yeah, so a lot of people have, like, their goal is like, I want to work on Spider-Man, right? Or I want to work on Batman. They have like a specific character that they want to work on. I'm kind of a little different in the way that my main thing is I just want to tell stories making comics. I'm not saying no, I wouldn't write Spider-Man. Absolutely, I 100% would love to do that, but it's not my main goal. It's one of those things that if it happens, but that's not my end all be all. And I've kind of found, as I've gotten older and, different things happen in life, it kind of changes your perspective and your perception on what you want out of life. And I used to really tie a lot of my self-worth to success or lack thereof in my creative endeavors. Now, I really have found that if you can find love in the process of making the thing, of writing it and all that, if nobody reads it, you're still, that's just bonus if anybody reads it. Or if it makes money, then that's great. But if it doesn't, you still got the happiness in the process of making it. So, my goal is to make my living writing. I'm just gonna, my real goal is to just keep creating stuff and getting things out there into the world. And if I work a day, there's some very famous cartoonists. Harvey Pekar is the one that comes to mind. He did this comic called American Splendor, which was just an autobiographical comic. He worked as a file clerk at a hospital in Cleveland, Ohio, and retired there. And comics was just his side gig. But he is revered by cartoonists, and he's considered one of the greats. No one goes, well, he's not as legitimate as so-and-so because he worked a day job. Nobody says that. They just said they enjoy his writing, And I remember an interview, so I'm talking about, he's like, if I didn't work, I wouldn't have anything to write about. But, it just kind of, it's perception thing. And I also found that once I switched my perception to that, it kind of took a lot of unfair pressure that I was putting on myself. Because, just because something's popular doesn't mean it's good. And just because something's good doesn't mean that it's going to be popular. It's kind of just a matter of personal preference and taste. So if you stop caring as much about what other people think about it and focus on what you get out of making it, then that's makes things a lot easier.
So do you have a deal with a publishing company, or do you have several publishers that you look at your work? Or
so I some stuff I self-publish, and I just put it out myself, and
you self-publish?
I self-publish some stuff, and then other things I do. So like the Big Gun Stupid Rednecks was from this publisher called Band of Bards. They're based out of Buffalo, New York, which is nice part. There's pros and cons to working with publishers, but the nice thing is like them taking care of all the distribution and the printing, and I just really have to focus on the writing and promoting end of it. And I pretty much am always pitching every company under the sun, whether they return my emails or not. They're still getting them from me.
So they would be your publisher, basically. So when you have a publisher, can they return and say, well, you need to change this and you need to change this, and they need? So do they do that often or not, Austin?
Yeah, it kind of depends on who you're working with.
So there would be editors that would go through it.
And so like I for Big Gun Stupid Rednecks, I had an editor assigned to my book named Chuck Satterley, and he wasn't so much of a content editor. He was more, obviously like grammar, punctuation, but he was reading the scripts as I was finishing them and just basically making sure that everything I did made sense. That like, I'm alluding to this. Is there going to be a payoff for this storyline or what, just to make sure everything makes sense, which, but other places, especially like when you're at Marvel and DC or if you're on the stuff that I like get hired to write, though that stuff usually is more edit heavy because they have a specific thing that they want, which isn't always communicated the best. So then you finish something and it's, no, I don't want that at all. Okay.
What was it like to be edited like that the first time? Was it hard?
The first time that I had like I would say real editor on something, it was terrifying when I sent it because that specific person I was a very, very big fan of. So it was like, sending in your highlight reel to one of your favorite athletes kind of thing. But honestly, it kind of worked in my favor because I was so scared of looking like a doofus or looking inferior that I really put a lot into it. And there was definitely edit, but everything that he had suggested or tweaked made it better, and it was things that I didn't even see. It was definitely this guy's been doing it longer than me, and he could catch these things. It's you don't know what you don't know kind of situation.
Right.
And so some people were very like precious about when they write things. They're like, it's got to be this way, blah blah blah. Well, comics is such a collaborative thing. Oftentimes when I'm working with an artist, they'll be like, hey, you have the script written this way, how do you feel about changing it to this? And usually they're right. And I'm all for it because when we change things to make it better, that just makes all of us look better, And I would just rather have would I rather have my vision as I wanted it or something that's better? I mean, and some people, they want their vision, which is fine, but I just want it to be better.
Yeah, well, it's amazing to me. You see things that have been edited, novels, and you read through them and you say, well, that's not what they said back here. They said he was a corporal, not a cat, this sort of thing. I remember we had a reading series, Macmillan or whatever, and one of the stories in one of the reading books, they talk about the little boy's red shirt or whatever. Well, in the drawing, he's wearing a green shirt, And okay, somebody missed that, or they didn't have the picture when they read the text or whatever. Yeah. And so I just think that's very interesting when those kind of things happen where, these reading books sold all over the country. Millions of dollars worth, and that's a big error, I thought, but because the little kid's reading a red shirt and the picture's got a green shirt on, and so it's kind of interesting that even though they apparently, and I'm sure they put lots of time and money into getting this right, they miss things, and so it's hard to get everything perfect.
No, absolutely, and it's funny because that does happen in comics quite a bit, and it's funny because you have these guys that are paid good money to try to catch these things, but then it's people like me that end up catching them when it's out in the world. What I mean? We're like, wait a minute, that doesn't add up. And for sure.
I had a question too. Was it the Big Bang Theory? The nerdy guys were always going to Comic Con. Okay, do they still have those big gatherings? And they would dress up as characters and this sort of thing when they went in. Is that still something that's current, that's still going on?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and all over too. I mean, so like I honestly living here is like perfect because can drive to Kansas City in 5 hours, Chicago in 4 hours, Minneapolis 4 hours, Omaha 4 hours, and then Des Moines, in 2 hours, and they all have comic conventions.
Yeah.
And it's exactly like that, and it's actually pretty cool because like when I started going to comic conventions probably when I was about 13, and I'd have my dad drive me, and Des Moines was the closest one, and at that time the people that were in there, it was like me and like I was probably the youngest one there that wasn't like a child there with their parents, and it was just a lot of older white men. But now it is so much more diverse. There's people of all ages, of different fandoms. You wouldn't nearly see as many costumes as you do now. And it's which makes me happy, and it's so cool that more people have found this thing. It's funny because there's some people that are like, it's everybody they like Marvel movies, and I was bullied for reading Marvel comics when I was a kid. Well, I look at it as, hey, everybody discovered this thing that I loved. Maybe it took them a little longer.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that they're here.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not mad at them. I'm like, hey, I'm glad you caught up.
Yeah.
Yes. I know exactly how you feel.
And it's nice to see you find something you really, really love to do, and it's paying off for you. You're able to do it and keep doing it. And I think that's great.
Last time we met, you shared with us, and I tell you, Austin, and it's not my intention to offend you, I can see a change in your personality and a change in your happiness, and your success has brought out a lot of good in you here. What is your next step now, Austin?
Well, right now, I'm trying to think of what I can and can't talk about. Sorry, that sounds weird. And what I mean by that isn't that I'm doing anything nefarious. It's just contracts and certain things. Right now, I am still pitching companies, putting out my own stuff. I've got some pretty big opportunities coming up that might bring me to the next size up of publishers. One of the things that I did for Big Gun Stupid Rednecks that ended up, I never thought about doing this, and then one day I just decided to do it, was I filmed these videos where I dressed up like a redneck and had a gun and like promoted the comic that way.
Right.
And then I filmed some with me holding the chicken.
When you put it on social media?
Yep.
That's what
Yep. And then I me on a tractor, all this stuff that to us is, that's just everyday life. But somebody in New York is like, what is this guy in overalls and a gun out by a bar? And I put those out there. They did very well. And I found that my shamelessness was a great promotional tool.
On what social media did you put that on for people to look them up?
The two places that I posted them on a bunch, but the ones that they did very well on were TikTok. They did really good on TikTok, and they did really good on Twitter. Unfortunately, Twitter is a very different place now that Elon Musk has taken over. It's not. I don't even use it anymore because it's not what it used to be. We'll just leave it there. But doing that, and I had never thought about trying to do stuff, incorporate stuff like that into my writing. Or promoting my stuff, it kind of changed the way that I think about things, and it's going to help me a lot going forward, definitely.
I'll be driving a lot, and all of a sudden on the podcast I'm listening to, I'll hear a movie on, a man talking to a woman, or two guys talking to each other. I'll think, what is this? And then they'll advertise it as a book.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it's like, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
And that's become more prominent on the radio.
Having voice actors to do, I've noticed that as well.
Yeah. So if they go over to Cedar Falls, they can get you a book.
Yeah, if there's I don't know if there'll be any left. There's going to be a collected edition that'll be coming out closer to the summer this year, which will have all of the issues in one kind of book in a graphic novel, and then the graphic novel will have a bunch of bonus stuff. We'll have some new short comics and some pinups and some behind the scenes stuff that'll be included in it. And that'll be, I don't exactly know when, but it'll be closer into the summer, and that'll be out, and then that should be available in also bookstores as well when that.
So do you have like a groupie fan club kind of thing going yet? Or?
I don't know if I have that. I have like this. I say I'm more like have like a cult like following of like people that buy. No,
It'll never go away.
People that always buy my stuff when I put it out. So which is huge.
Oh sure.
Nothing crazy. No groups yet that I know of.
Okay, well.
There's been some people outside my window, but I'm suspecting that's stray cats.
Yeah.
Let's talk Comic-Con for just a second. What's the closest one? Has a little town like Jesup ever done one like that, and brought people in?
Jesup has not. Cedar Falls does one. They do it at the Rod Library on the UNI campus.
Sure.
And that one is actually, it's pretty big, and they get a lot of people, and it kind of takes over the whole library for a Saturday, and they usually do it, and I'm trying to think like March or April, and yeah, they get pretty decent guests, and they have a lot of different vendors and stuff, and that's the closest one, and it's free to attend too, so they don't charge anything, and it's kind of the perfect one, yeah, if you're interested in going. They call it RodCon. So yeah, you can find out about it pretty easily just from a quick Google search, RodCon Cedar Falls.
Yeah, look that up, listeners. Look that up. We're so lucky to have Austin Hamblin with us tonight on our podcast. When we found out the success Austin was having, we wanted to have him in. So
we went after him big time, didn't we?
We did. Well, actually, I had been doing it. I contacted him about a month and a half ago, and we just couldn't get you on. You were so busy.
I was traveling for work, so I was just not around during the week, and then now I'm back. I'm glad to be home.
Yeah. Well, Austin, thank you so much for coming in tonight.
It's nice to see us all working out for you. And there's a lot of room to grow yet, which is wonderful.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to tell the audience?
I do. If anyone's interested, I do have a newsletter that I do on Substack. I'm sure I can probably send that to you to put in the footnotes of the show. But yeah, and it's free to sign up for. You just put your email, and if you ever get tired of hearing from me, you can unsubscribe at any time. I won't be mad.
Okay. What's it called?
Well, Substack is just a place that I use for. It's like an app for. But it's just it'll send you an email anytime that I do put out an update newsletter, and that's kind of the best way. I found that I've kind of moved to that instead of social media. I still do social media, but it's like, they're like some of them will be around for a few years and then die, or this might be banned, that might be banned. I kind of moving to a newsletter is probably the smartest way to keep everybody updated, and all they got to do is just wait, and it'll come right to them if they. So
that's great.
Awesome.
That's great.
Well, thank you, Austin.
Thank you very much.
This is the
Steve Brown Arts Center
podcast network.
That,
and then the Jesup News, and we're back. What a fun interview with Austin.
It was. Yeah, nice kid. And so,
yeah. You could, and I hope I didn't offend him when I said that. You could see a change in him with his success. He's feeling it. Which is good.
And he's got, and I knew, and it's got to be a relative of his. And I worked with him one summer here in Jesup. He's got that same sense of humor. I think you can just see it in him. So I'm sure there must be relatives of some kind.
Right.
The man has died since then, but you can see a lot of him. It's there.
That's awesome.
Family resemblance is great. So
if you've been asking what's up with something going on lately, don't forget everyone has a story on opinions and experiences to share, and they do that on What's Up podcast. Our friend Bubba discusses real life with real people, the good and the bad, the highs and lows, and everything funny in between. The most interesting yet entertaining podcast that makes people think. We'd beg to differ, Bubba.
Really, yes.
One conversation at a time. After you're done
most people think, why am I listening to this?
After you're done listening to us, listen to us first. Then go listen to our friend Bubba. Bubba Seaman on the podcast, What's Up? Dale and I will be on Friday for the third and final week.
That was one long interview, wasn't it?
It was. It was
cut it up.
It was a lot of fun.
He got 3 shows out of that.
Yeah.
We should have charged more.
We should have.
Yeah.
We should have. What'd you do with your cut?
Well, I need a new car. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So Dale, what do you got for Jesup news
Well,
this
yeah,
week?
a little thing, just keep people reminded of the programs that are going on. February 24th is the Monday movie at 1 o'clock. It's Fly Me to the Moon with Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum. And it's a PG-13, about a little over 2 hours. And as always, they have free popcorn and free admission. So exercise groups still going Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 o'clock. And it's beginner-friendly strength, mobility, and balance workouts. And if you're getting a little older, it's for 55 and up. And that balance is so important to keep your balance going. Little Tot Story Time every Thursday, 10:30 a.m. They have music, stories, and activities. And more than ever, we need to get those kids into books and reading. Rest of the month, they have a Chat Book Club the February 17th at 1 o'clock, so they'll have time to hear this. And The Most Fun We Ever Had by Claire Lombardo. And Jim and I will not be part of this group this month, but The Most Fun We Ever Had, you could go a long way, a lot of different ways with that. So that's the book that they're talking about. And even if you haven't had a chance to read it, you can still go in and learn about it, talking with the people, and maybe then you would take it. And that's about it as far as for the rest of the month at the library. And remember, they still have this program. It's Meals from Homemade by Bridget Maroney. And you can order online and then pick it up here at Cowork 591 on Tuesdays, anytime between 8 and 5. And so it's all done online, but you have to pick it up here, or they'll give you a place in Independence also if you're closer that way. But I keep meaning to give this a try, and we keep not being around to do it. But you go to homemadecatering.net. You can order a meal, a small meal, larger. They have different sizes and several different choices to choose from. School news in basketball, the boys' district play gets going
Tonight.
on the 17th.
Yep, tonight.
And I think it's 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
Yeah, versus Crestwood, and that's up in your area,
A lot of
right?
good people graduated from Crestwood.
Yeah.
I played for Crestwood. Thank God
Did
the
you
basketball
really?
has gotten better since then.
But it's nice to use that nice gym at Jesup for some of these district plays.
Yes.
I see the girls are playing there too. And then the girls on Tuesday, February 28th, are playing either East Marshall or Lisbon. They must have to play Jesup.
Yes.
Okay, so the
Yes.
girls do not know their opponent yet, but that's at Jesup.
Is that 28th or the 23rd?
Okay, I had the 28th here, but I can look it up again.
I think it might be the 23rd.
23rd, I think you were right, because that's way too long.
Yeah,
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 the 23rd, I'm sorry. Why did I do that?
Because it probably looked like an 8 to you.
That's true, because I was wearing my glasses sideways.
Yeah, there you
okay,
go.
all right. But a reminder on, I know why I did it, because February 28th is the coffee house program up at school.
Gosh, good.
Where the kids and a lot of times faculty do different types of entertainment. It's always a fun time.
Is that Friday or Saturday?
That's a Friday.
Oh, gosh. I've got to go to that.
So it's at 7 o'clock, and it's in the, last time it was in the old gym.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's coming up. So put that on your calendar and try to make it, because those kids put a lot into that, and it's some good entertainment. I saw today Hellsgeth, the new Secretary of Defense.
Yes.
Do you remember they tried to get rid of the military installations that were named after Confederate generals and this sort of thing?
Yeah, yeah.
And one of those was a General Bragg. He was a Confederate general, and so Fort Bragg was renamed Fort Liberty. Okay.
Okay.
So now, but the Secretary of Defense, it's against the law to name it after anyone who fought against the country, like a Confederate, this sort of thing.
Right.
So, but he renamed it Fort Bragg, and he went through, and they found a private Bragg that fought in World War II that got a medal of some kind, and so they renamed it for him. But the idea was, we're going to get it back to being Fort Bragg no matter what. So it's not named after the Confederate general anymore. It's named after Private Bragg, who fought in World War II.
Interesting.
Yeah, just
I did not know that.
pettiness. Okay.
Yeah.
Learn today, Prime Minister Trudeau. His last, he's done. Sometime they have to have elections in the next few months.
Yeah.
But his last official act is he's going to rename the Great Lakes.
He is.
Yes.
And what's he going to call them?
That's the mystery, see. But he said, since if he renamed the Gulf of Mexico, he can rename the Great Lakes. And so.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay.
Yes, he can.
In England, they do an archaeological, because that's been there a long time.
Uh-huh.
And they found a rare worn-down pencil belonging to William Shakespeare. And that's been unearthed. And the experts have looked at this pencil and are not sure if the lead is 2B or not 2B. Okay. And then this last piece of news is they've been reading about Star Wars, So what's Darth Vader's and Luke Skywalker's favorite store? This is Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. What's their favorite store?
Starbucks?
No, it's that secondhand store near Target in Des Moines.
What is it?
The secondhand store. Blake, help me out. Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, the secondhand store. Mean anything to you? Well, there's a movie where Darth Vader cuts off Luke Skywalker's hands. And so, but then he gets an artificial hand. And so,
See,
I need to use these jokes with a higher class of people, I think.
I am not. I've never been I saw the first Star Wars.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Well, the first three are the only ones that are any good as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
I never liked the reboots or the ones they did.
Yeah. Forgive me on that, Dale.
That's all right. I'm used to my thuds. Tell them to go thud. You can just hear it. Hear the thing dropping.
Dale, I got to ask you this question before we go on here. What's a huckleberry?
A huckleberry is from a huckleberry bush. It's a little berry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you ever heard someone called a huckleberry?
A huckleberry fin.
Okay.
And also, what was the
Doc.
But it was someone would call it a rube. Where
a rube. Yeah.
A huckleberry. Somebody from out in the sticks.
Now we were talking about this the other day. Have you ever had a ground cherry?
Yes, I have, and used to ground cherry pie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now someone was calling it a gooseberry. Is that different from a gooseberry?
Yeah, ground cherry. They're about like a marble, a large pea.
Right.
And they're as I remember, golden yellowish.
They're wonderful.
Yeah. But a gooseberry is on a gooseberry bush, and they are green, and then when they ripen, they turn purple, and they make delicious pies and jam also.
See, I went to the Amish auction and bought six quarts of ground cherries.
Okay.
And then I ate some, and I met with a couple guys our age. They started, like men will do our age, they started talking about their actions in the bathroom. And one guy says, well, it is, I struggle to do number one. It takes me all morning to do number one, he says. And the other guy says, well, I'm up all night doing number one. And
the prostate exam.
Yeah, another friend of mine said, well, I can wait till 7:30 in the morning and go. I'm still pretty strong. Then we started talking about number two, and one guy says, well, I just can't hold it sometimes, you guys. It's just terrible. And the other guy says, yeah, but I can't ever go. And the third guy says, well, I can go at 7:30 every morning, like clockwork. And the fourth guy with us said, well, I go like clockwork every morning, number one and number two at 9:30. The trouble is, I don't get up till 11:30. So
isn't it better when guys just talk about baseball or something? I've always, because when you have babies and you get together with other people who have babies, you talk about potty training and bowel movements and this and that a lot. And then as you get older, you're sitting in the nursing, and that's a big concern again. Everybody tell you, did you go today, Charlie? This young nurse comes in and, Charlie, did you go? And they want to talk. And so it's both ends. When you're just starting out and as you're just checking out, your bowel movements or whatever become very important.
Yes, it does. Yes,
I know last time I had a physical, and it was a very young kid. He's a student, and you want to know about my bathroom habits and this sort of thing. Okay.
Yes.
But it is very important.
It is very important.
Yeah.
All right. I've got a little bit of Art Center news. We were talking about possibly being in the depot this summer, but because of some conflicts, no offense on either side, the depot did not work out for us. So we're still a 501c3 without a home. We're still which is fine. There are so many kind people that share their venues with us. Yeah. And so it would have been good to be in the depot, and it would have given us a chance to see if we really need a place or not. But it didn't work out. Yeah. So thanks to thanks to the Independence Depot Board of Directors for including us in that conversation anyhow. And I'm sure we'll have an event or two there this summer. But I want to tell our listeners that.
That worked out well when the and I don't remember the names anymore, but the girl that played the guitar and sang,
Yes.
that was a nice little group that
was.
got there, and it was a nice place for her to do that, outside, but shaded, and so.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
Garrett Ficken, one of our artists, is showed actually this past Saturday at the Sanity Room.
Okay.
If you get a chance, the Sanity Room has some of his artwork hanging in there right now, and you can see Garrett's work in there. Garrett is an amazing man. He is, if you remember, the drop artist that drops the paint.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else we have going on. Our social media specialist, Josie Lloyd, has been doing a unique thing on Facebook. She's been doing the 14 days of Valentine's. Instead of the 12 days of Christmas, she's been doing the 14 days of Valentine's. And each day she posts a John Decker Valentine's on there. And John has been very good to the Art Center. And you get a chance to go to our Facebook and see what Josie's been posting on Facebook.
Okay.
You can see all 14 days up to Valentine's Day. Dale, what did you do for your bride on Valentine's?
We went out to dinner and dressed up. I went to the Brown Bottle in Waterloo.
Okay.
And 2 other couples, and had a very nice evening, and nice meal, and nice evening, and was very nice. So that was my Valentine's.
All right. Well,
one thing I know about Valentine's is you never go to the Valentine's ball with your wife if your sweetheart is going to be there. You have these sweetheart balls. And so you're not supposed to take both. Supposed to take either your wife or your sweetheart, but not both. So that's something you learn after many years of experience.
Okay.
So.
All right. I see you have an article you want to talk about there, Dale.
There's been a lot of advertising in the major newspapers from, is it Bayer? I think it's the same company that did Bayer aspirin way back when, but they have purchased Monsanto, and so they're big into Roundup.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make sure that Roundup stays available to farmers as a weed killer. And there have been many articles written by farmers actually saying, we need this poison, this herbicide. Okay.
Yeah.
And so there is a bill in the legislature about allowing them to use this chemical, and I have trouble pronouncing chemicals, but where's it at? I showed it to Blake. I said, how do you say this? Glyphosate? Is that right, Blake? Glyphosate? Okay, that's the poison. It's the key ingredient in widely used Roundup pesticide, and more than half our waterways are impaired, including our major urban drinking water supplies, all of which are contaminated with dangerous levels of nitrates. And researchers say both are probably carcinogens. So it's the pesticides and the commercial fertilizer that is poisoning our water in this state. And again, the Iowa Cancer Registry predicted 21,000 new invasive cancer diagnoses last year and 6,100 cancer-related deaths. And so that's way too much. So, and we use more of that chemical than anybody.
Yeah,
okay.
we do.
So the article goes on. It says, it is folly to pretend these facts are unrelated. Yet that's just what the nation's biggest agricultural corporations want us to believe. One of them, Roundup manufacturer Bayer, wants to silence any Iowan who claims otherwise. Bayer's Cancer Gag Act, which is Senate Study Bill 1051, is part of a national push to silence cancer patients, mask the health effects of chemical pesticides, and protect big ag. The bill would eliminate both Iowa's access to information about pesticides, serious health risks, and legal recourse for those who get sick. Legislators are trying to help them do it, and they must be stopped. Shielding corporations from cancer culpability does nothing to hide the truth. Industrial agriculture is making us sick. Bayer knows its products carry serious risks. The company wouldn't try so hard to save face if they didn't. Since its 2018 acquisition of Monsanto, Bayer has spent at least $11 billion settling over 100,000 cancer patient lawsuits alleging corporate culpability for their disease. Before that, Monsanto spent years weaponizing its profits to pay independent scientists and institutions to suppress legitimate cancer research about Roundup's cancer link. Since 2015, 2015, the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer has warned that glyphosate, the key ingredient in Roundup, is a probable carcinogen. Around the same time, Monsanto colluded with EPA officials to kill a glyphosate review and suspend an agency panel on the chemical's health risks, which could have made the connection explicit. Now the company is trying to enlist our Iowa legislature in the cover-up scheme. Big Ag has been consolidating power and eliminating public oversight in Iowa for decades. Today's effort is straight out of the same playbook that brought Iowa's infamous ag-gag and right-to-farm laws, which insulate corporate factory farms from basic free speech and nuisance laws. Iowa's factory farms have been so successful at limiting regulations that the 109 billion pounds of waste produced on these operations, that's 109 billion pounds in our state, it's virtually unregulated, and water quality monitoring has been routinely defunded. Neighbors living with the pollution and downstream water users sickened from its effects have limited resource to make complaints. A Food and Water Watch analysis found that in 10 years, factory farm polluters have been fined barely $750,000 in punitive penalties for illegal manure discharge into waterways. The true numbers on the cost of industry's illegal pollution required to make any headway in cleaning our water and improving our health will remain in a black until more transparent permitting is required. We should not let Big Ag pull the wool over their eyes. And this is an editorial in the last Sunday's Des Moines Register. It says that Governor Reynolds and the Iowa legislature must deny passage of Bayer's Cancer Gag Act and pass the Clean Water for Iowa Act to improve factory farm pollution. And it gets me the way they've done, like Pete and other groups were getting jobs in hog farms and then secretly taping what was going on inside there and then showing us out to all the abuses and the bad things that were going on. And instead of the legislature saying, yeah, okay, you need to fix what you're doing,
right.
Instead they made a law saying it's illegal to go in there and film it. And so that's kind of what we're up against is a legislature that is way too farmer friendly. And again, these are not like Joe Farmer down the street. These are big ag corporations that want to do. So anyway, we continue to increase the number of cancers found in people in Iowa, and we continue to have the dirtiest water. And we need somehow to get people who will put health of the people over big ag profits. And so I saw that article and I thought I would share that with you.
So. Dale, I have a well, and it's interesting how the taste of my well water changes through the year. Mm-hmm. I mean, from the spring and the summertime, the fall, the wintertime, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But there's a certain time of a year that I struggle to drink my water.
Do you have it tested? Can you send that to Ames or something?
It's been a while since I've sent it in and had it tested. Yeah.
Because I don't know how often they recommend, but you would think that if you have a farm well or a well for drinking water, that you would say you ought to have that tested, every 3 months or 6 months or something,
Martin Luther King Jr. said you should have something, you should have a cause that you would die for. Mm-hmm. And I always thought mine would be the gun safety in our country, and I know that's almost sworn in Iowa because now, the freedom to carry is... there's no law basically anymore.
Yeah, and nobody campaigned on a way to stop the murder in Iowa schools, and there's no, as far as I know, there's no legislation being considered to help keep schools gun-free, and so it's just something that they ignore, and someday we'll have another.
And the other thing would be this, but again, people don't want to stop it.
Yeah, you have to have the people that have the power to stop it have to be at least interested in it.
Yeah.
And right now they show no interest, and so all you do is have people like this editorial writer. It's Michelin Mankel. She's a guest columnist, and she is an Iowa organizer with a national advocacy group, Food and Water Watch, and she lives in Des Moines. So she's the lady that wrote the article.
All right. This is Steve Brown.
So anyway, when I see something about water and cancer, I just think water is so basic, and why should this be so hard to get something done? But
cancer is just, cancer is so prominent. I mean, if we can stop away, it's like cigarettes for a while. Yeah. If they can stop away the cancer has started.
Yeah. I was talking to Judd Anton last night, and he's had a lot of health concerns, and he goes through the Mayo Clinic.
Yeah.
And he was talking about a man he met at the Mayo Clinic, and he's just a big, strapping man, and they were talking, and the man was there for a checkup, and he had stage 5 melanoma, very, very serious, and they said, you're going to die from it, but we have this experimental program. Do you want to try that? And he said, well, yeah, I have nothing to lose. And so they had 10 people, 9 of them died. This guy, complete remission. And so they're trying to study him to find out why did it work with him and not with these 9 other people. And that would be very perplexing. It's just amazing. But there are a lot of people working on it, a lot of money spent on cancer research. But you got to help yourself a little bit too. Yeah. As far as the state goes, as far as giving it a chance. And Iowa is not.
The C. Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. Don't forget, one of the goals is to for the Arts Center to meet 12 new artists this year. We were introduced to the son of our second artist. The second artist we were introduced to is Bob Breckenridge, the former art teacher in Independence. He's passed away now.
Okay.
But we met his son, Sean, and Sean wants us to show his father's art.
Oh, okay.
And he's got 70-some pieces.
Okay.
And so we're working and setting that up. We're going to meet a second time next week, and so I'm excited. I met the second of 12 new artists. It is, artists are so busy. It's like Austin. He not only does his art, but he works full time at Fairway.
Yeah.
And artists, no other profession has to do that, Dale. That's not fair to them.
I don't know if you have time to read it, but there's a series of books by a man named David Silva, and the hero in these books, and there's like 22 in the series so far, but the hero in the book, he works for the Israeli Secret Service, but he's also an art restorer, and he is hired to restore Rembrandts and this sort of thing. And so the author's gone into great detail about how this is done, and it's just very, very interesting how they take care of these old masters, the works of art, and a lot about the buying and selling and thievery of art also. It's so I've learned a lot about art just by reading these, I guess you call them adventure novels, but it's been very interesting for me to read about the art part of this whole thing. So
there's a lot of art podcasts out there.
Is there?
I'll listen to one now and again. I just don't understand a lot of that's why I try to do art. I write every day. I draw every day. I'm not saying I'm good at either one of them, but I try. I'm I listen to those, and I'm miles away from what I need to be. Let's see, any other things that I need to get out to our listeners here? Okay. Dale, do you have anything else for the betterment of the community?
I think I'm good. Who's our next visitor?
Next week, Alex Monahan from Future Forward, I believe I have that right, will be with us from Independence, and we've been trying to get her on for 2 weeks, and the weather hasn't cooperated.
Yeah, okay.
So she's coming next Wednesday. I look forward to speaking with Alex.
And I did notice it's a little store is open in the old Citizen Herald building.
Okay.
It's like from the sign, it must be like a secondhand store or a little place. I've not been in there.
I haven't either.
So we do have a new business in town.
Oh, good. We need to stop in there. Maybe get them on the air someday.
See, that'd be nice,
If you'd like to donate to the Steve Brown Arts Center or have an idea for an event, go to the SteveBrownArtsCenter.org or go to our Facebook page and follow the link. If you have news or would like to sponsor us, email us at Jim@SteveBrownArtsCenter.org or call 319-290-0241. That's 319-290-0241 and leave a message. I'm Jim Gillespie with producer Blake Tempus. Austin was talking about Comic-Con in Des Moines, and I was in Des Moines one day, and I saw Wonder Woman walking down the street, and I wondered what it was.
Yeah.
And then I heard later on that they had a Comic-Con, and I realized why.
Yeah.
But I thought, what's that?
But that made your day, didn't it?
It did. Thanks to the audience for bringing these stray dogs into your life. Make sure you go out and you search for Austin Hamblin's books.
There was that Big Gun and Rednecks or something.
Yeah.
I was thinking I would go look for that.
Yep. Hope you had a good Valentine's Day. St. Patty's Day's coming at you fast here, and spring's coming on. Remember,
I think we have to get rid of all that ethnic stuff, don't we? They got to get rid of St. Patrick's Day? Or?
I hope not.
Okay, all right.
Those are my people.
The beer companies will go out of business. So
That's right.
All right.
Each day is about little victories.
There you go.